Oh, Gibson Les Paul. How I love your dual humbuckers and your 3-in-line tuners and your 24 and 3/4 inch 24 and 3/4 inch scale and individual volume knobs like I can't find on a Fender usually. Okay, enough joking around. I'm messing around because we all know that you can find 24 and 3/4 scale guitars all over the place nowadays, especially. And what I was holding was my Gibson Les Paul. And if you know much about the Gibson stuff versus the Fender stuff, it's really rare that you find a Fender, especially from the 80s, with 3-in-line tuners like this on each side and a 24 and 3/4 inch scale and individual volume and tone knobs, plus a Gibson-like selector. This is a Fender Flame Elite. Belongs to a friend of mine. Oh, and let me show you something. Look at that. That is not a neck through, it's a set neck. The neck has been glued in and then the heel area has been sanded down. So this was a 1980 through 83 through 86 production thing, if I remember what I read correctly. And if I am following along here, I believe that this is an 85. Gosh, I can't remember what year he even told me this was. I'll ask him and I'll put it in some text down here. But officially, it's a Fender Flame, and this is the Elite series, which is separated from the Esprit body. The Esprit body style was the alternative to the Flame, or vice versa. They both had the double cutaways like this, as opposed to the Gibson single cutaways. So it kind of has an SG shape. It's definitely a nod to Gibson. And being that it was the 80s and this was that CBS era Fender where they were just doing whatever they could do to kind of get some money going, they were tapping in on that whole dual humbucker, get your control on. This even has split coils. Now, really interesting thing about this one, it's very rare that you see one of these with a Kaler. That's a Kaler bridge on there. I'll get this crazy strap off for a second. That's a Kaler bridge. It floats, but it's different than the Floyd. It's mounted to a big old bracket. The guy who had this before my friend Robert, he was obviously quite a heavy picker. I don't know how he got his pick down there so far between the E and the B strings. Floyd Rose would not approve of that right there. But everybody plays the way they play. So this is the headstock, as you can see, not like a standard Fender. Oh, it should be right here. Pardon my reach. So 6-in-line, 3x3. It's, about the same height, right? It's about the same height as a Fender, I'm guessing. The body is a little bigger than a Les Paul, just a little, and it is a thick body for sure. This one, like I mentioned, my friend Robert owns, and he bought it from somebody that I guess was a bit of a country or bluesy or some sort of player that loved his mojo, and he left that on there for the mojo. You can see some wear marks right there in that C sharp 9th fret area. This thing has obviously been played a lot. It was apparently the guy's #1 guitar. It's got these, I mean, look, it's got, those top hat volume and tone knobs, similar to a Les Paul, but not quite the same, I would think. There's not that little ridge there that you sometimes can feel on the Les Paul ones. So it's interesting. It's very much a nod to Les Paul's designs. This was made between 83 and 86. it's very difficult. The Fujigen factory in Japan doesn't really have a lot of documentation on this. They don't track all that stuff, especially from back then. So maybe somebody that really knows what's going on with the serial numbers from Japanese guitars by Fender could tell me more about it. But it basically starts with a B and 010303. So if you were the guy that owned this guitar before, really cool, very cool player. Robert's got proper pots for this. These are not to 500K specs like a normal Les Paul, and like I mentioned, they're not wound to PAF specs. So these are 1K, 1.5. The resistance factor is completely different. And the feel of the volume, you can really go from a dirtier to a cleaner, and then as you clean it up, it gets even cleaner. It's really weird. When you're playing overdrive, they really clean up nice. I'll play here in a second. Obviously, it has the split coils. Oh, hello. And it has these cool kind of, I don't know, Armored Saint kind of Celtic inlays. Obviously, locking style behind the actual nut there. I don't know what kind of nut it is, and it looks like the nut has been replaced at some point. Now, Robin Ford played, or is pictured in ads playing a similar model. He played the Esprit, and this is the Flame, and this is the actual Elite line, like I said. Really rare to have this on it. This cream kind of pearlescent color really catches the light. I have horrible lighting here in my jam room, so pardon all the unprofessionalityness of these guitar reviews, but I really like trying to find weird and quirky guitars, and my buddy has a couple of really interesting ones. Some other Japanese Fenders as well that maybe if you guys like and comment, I'll be able to feature on another video. I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to a little bit of a leady kind of a thing with the blues driver and some delay, and I'm just going to play. I'm going to start off in single coil, and I'm going to start off between the two pickups. So both of these in single coil right now, or split coil, and both of the pickups at about 5. So bringing up that neck pickup some. Now putting them back down in the middle and bringing this bridge pickup a little. See how quacky and quirky that is? Still real stratty, you know? So the in-between positions are really cool. You get a lot of note or tone choice there with that. And I really dig having the neck pickup all the way up and then kind of tweaking this bridge pickup. That neck really brings on the thickness, you know? You'll find differences between the volume knobs here. It's really, really interesting. Let's go to the bridge. incredible sounds, I think. And those are all single coil or split coil at this point. I haven't even hit the humbucker. So let's start off in the bridge humbucker now. You get a lot of that smackiness out of it, you know, which is really cool that you can get that type of bright top out of the shorter scale like this and make it playable in the way that sometimes a Strat won't be. You know, you get really high up on the... There's no... My finger doesn't stop on anything. In fact, I went past it, the 22nd fret there at first, you know? They sound great. I really would be interested to hear what Fender USA would do with this. I'm a little let down by their reissues this year. I gotta admit, I think the lead 2 design, it's just kind of not my thing. It's a smaller Strat. I'm big. It doesn't look right on me. I look like I'm playing a toy. Plus the 2 single coils. I like my telly for that, you know. And I'm not into the HM Strat reissue. I really liked the HM. I thought Greg Howell made it sound unbelievable. And they used higher quality parts back in the late 80s and early 90s for those old HMs. They've kind of gone a little cheap with some of the parts on the newer ones. I think that if they were to redo something like this, it would be a real letdown if they went with the cheaper parts, because this was definitely, at that time, considering they were putting guitars like this in the hands of the people that they did for the ads, they were really trying to push this to an upscale kind of a player, I believe. It'd really be neat to see what they did with it. You probably wouldn't see the Kaler on it, I'm quite sure. But you'd probably see a hardtail version. I guess I should mention the guy Dan Smith from Fender was responsible for the design of the guitar. He came up with a bunch of designs for Fender back then and concepts, and this was one of a couple. There was also an arch top version of his design with just a single pickup. Tommy Tedesco played one. That guy that, if you know who he is, you know who he is. If you don't, look him up. He's a killer player, and you've heard him before, trust me. But a couple of big name players were attached to these guitars and this line of guitars. And they were really trying to push them. And reading some interviews, it seems like they were happy with the guitar and with the reception of the guitar. They just kind of stopped making them, and they never really have brought them back. And with Fender doing all these reissues, it would really be interesting to see them do a reissue like this. Now, that's a really cool looking guitar in my book. I really like it. I really like the way it plays. The neck is a little thinner than a Les Paul. It's Japanese made. It feels high quality. Even if that era, Japan was putting out good quality guitars, you know. I would never have a problem playing this live. I probably would have to get used to the tonal changes a little bit. It reacts a little quicker than I'm used to. And I think that's the resistance of those pots. And the neck doesn't quite have the D feel that I like. I like a little bit of shoulder here, whereas this definitely comes down and rolls right off. But it's almost like, it's not thin as an Ibanez, but it kind of has an Ibanez-y kind of a feel. So that's definitely not a Les Paul-y kind of a feeling shape to the neck, the back of the neck here at least. It's killer guitar. If you have a chance to pick one up and play one at a shop somewhere, I hate that strap. If you have a chance to pick one up and play one, you should, because it's definitely inspiring. Really cool.